In the village of Kutura, where the sun sat stubbornly over the roofs and rain was a distant memory, there was a well at the center of the square. It was old, older than any living elder, dug by hands long buried in the red earth. People said the well was once a blessing. It never ran dry, even in the leanest seasons. But over time, something strange began to happen. Every dry season, just as the Hamatan winds began to blow and the ground cracked like broken calabash, the well began to cry. Not leak. Cry. Drops of water would trickle down its stones, not from inside but from the rim, like tears from a tired eye. The people grew used to it, but they never fetched water on those days. They called it Akuna's curse, named after the girl they said disappeared there many years ago. They whispered stories. Some said she fell, others said she jumped, but everyone agreed she was Halima's child, and Halima, every year without fail, would sit by that well on the day it began to weep. She came in silence, her wrapper tied tightly around her waist, a faded scarf covering her hair. She didn't speak. She didn't move. She just sat, back straight, eyes locked on the mouth of the well, sometimes for hours, sometimes until the stars blinked open. People left her alone. They stopped asking questions long ago. Even the children, full of curiosity and laughter, learned to keep their distance. They only asked each other in hushed tones, "Why does the whale cry when she comes?" The truth, as always, lay in a quiet corner of the past. That 20 years before, Halima had been a young wife with joy in her eyes and strength in her arms. Her daughter Akona was her only child, her miracle. After years of waiting, fasting, and drinking bitter roots from a native healer, the girl came as easily as breath. Halima called her Akuna, meaning father's wealth, but it was her everything. The girl was quick with laughter, always chasing chickens and splashing in the river. But one year the river dried up. Then the crops followed. Then the joy. Her husband grew thin with frustration. The market grew harsh. Akuna began to cough at night. Halima would sit with her, soaking rags in warm water, praying between every wheeze. There was no hospital nearby. The herbalist's hut was 3 villages away, and the money in the house could not feed both hunger and sickness. One dawn, after a sleepless night, Halima tied her child to her back and went to the well. She did not return, only she came back, without the child. When people asked, she said nothing. Her husband raged. He accused her of madness, of sacrifice, of carelessness, of betrayal, but Halima said not one word. Eventually he left her, moved far away, married another. Halima remained. She didn't remarry, didn't leave, didn't explain. She just sat by the well, year after year. One particular dry season, a stranger came to the village, a young man with a camera and a notebook. He had heard of the weeping well and wanted to write about it. He asked questions. Most people shrugged, some laughed. One old woman told him, "You can write all you want, but you won't understand tears that come from stone." Still, he sat with Halima respectfully, under the mango tree beside the well. She didn't look at him, but she didn't chase him away either. "Why do you sit here?" he asked gently. She looked at the well, then at him. "For memory?" she said. The stranger blinked. It was the first time anyone had heard her speak in years. "She was hot," Halima continued, her voice slow. "Her body burned. I thought water would help. I wanted to cool her down. I brought her here." Her eyes didn't blink. I placed her beside me. I fetched water. Just one bowl, just one. When I turned around, she was gone. The stranger leaned forward, heart beating fast. "You mean she fell in?" Halima's voice cracked like dry twigs. No sound, no splash, just gone. Silence wrapped them both. I waited, I shouted, I begged the well, but it was quiet, like it swallowed her gently. She looked down at her hands. I told them she died in her sleep, that I buried her quickly. I didn't want to tell the truth. I didn't want them to dig the well up. I thought maybe one day she would return. The stranger didn't know what to say. What does one say to a wound that has never closed? That year, the well cried longer than usual. It wept for 7 days, and Halima sat every hour. One night, while the moon hung like a pale plate in the sky, a voice soft as breath rose from the well. Only Halima heard it. Mama. She didn't smile. She didn't shout. She just nodded and whispered, I am here. The next morning, she was gone. They found her scarf folded neatly by the whale's side, her wrapper too. The villagers searched, but no one saw her again. The whale did not cry the next year. It has never cried since. The news of Halima's disappearance spread quietly like smoke from a small fire. In Kutura, people didn't wail for her, and no drums were beaten. It was as though they all understood that she had simply followed the path her heart had walked for 20 years. Some said she walked into the well herself, joining the daughter it had taken from her arms. Others said the spirits of the ancestors carried her away at last, granting her a release she had been denied in life. A few, especially the oldest women, whispered that the whale had returned her daughter's voice and Halima had followed it to a place no feet can tread. The village chief announced a day of silence in her honor, something that had not been done since the Great Famine. Shops remained closed, no songs were sung. The children were told to stay indoors. The well itself changed. No longer did water trickle from its stone lip during the dry months. The crying stopped, but something else remained. Birds no longer perched near it. Goats and sheep avoided the area entirely. And when the wind blew across the square, people swore they could hear lullabies, gentle and low, like a mother humming to a sleeping child. The stranger with the camera stayed in the village longer than expected. He tried to interview more people, hoping to piece Halima's story together to understand the mystery, but every version was different. One old man said Halima was a witch. She gave her child to the water gods for power, but regret took her in the end. A market woman argued, no, she was a saint. A mother who suffered so much that the well itself began to feel pity. Another claimed the child never existed, that Halima's mind had broken after years of infertility, and the story of Akuna was a dream made real by grief. The stranger grew frustrated. Facts dissolved in emotion. Names changed, dates twisted. The only thing that remained constant in every telling was Halima and the weeping well. So he sat alone one night, camera off, notebook forgotten, and stared at the well. The moon reflected on the still water. There was no sound, no movement, only the deep breath of the village sleeping behind him. He whispered, Halima, if you're still here, give me something. Anything. The wind picked up. Leaves rustled. The surface of the well rippled once, twice. Then it stilled, and from deep inside something glimmered. The stranger leaned forward, heart in his throat. It was faint, like the reflection of starlight or the shimmer of tears, but he could see it. A small bracelet, gold, simple with one red bead. He climbed down carefully, slowly. His hands gripped the stones tightly. As he reached the water's edge, the bracelet floated toward him. He took it. When he came back up, the village cock crowed once, though it was not yet dawn. By morning, the stranger called a gathering at the village square. He laid the bracelet on a white cloth and asked if anyone recognized it. An old woman gasped, That is Halima's child's bracelet. I remember. She brought it to church the day of her naming, one red bead for luck. The priest blessed it. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. But if the child was lost in the well 20 years ago, how is the bracelet still new? Someone asked. The stranger had no answer. The chief stepped forward. Perhaps some things are not for answering, he said. Perhaps the well was never crying for grief, but for forgiveness. The crowd was silent. From that day on, the well became a place of reverence, not for fetching water, but for reflection. Women who had lost children came to sit near it. Men whose wives had died in childbirth came to pour libations. Young girls came to whisper their fears about marriage and motherhood. hoping Halima's spirit would understand. And the bracelet, it was placed in a small glass case, guarded by the village elders, not to be worshipped but to be remembered. But years passed. The village changed. A health clinic was built near the edge of town. A tarred road reached Kultura from the city. Children played with plastic toys, cell phones buzzed, but the well remained untouched. The stranger returned, older now. He brought his daughter with him, a small, bright-eyed girl who held his hand tightly as he showed her the well. "This is the story I never published," he told her, "because I realized that not every story belongs in a book. Some stories belong to the land." The girl looked down the well, eyes wide. "Can I drop a flower for the lady?" she asked. He nodded. She dropped a single white hibiscus into the darkness. It floated, then sank slowly, like a secret going home. Sometimes, even today, travelers come to Kutura and hear of the well that used to cry. They ask the elders, "Why did it weep?" And the answer is always the same: for a mother who loved too deeply, for a village that forgot how to listen, for a child who never got a grave. In time, the story of Halima and the crying well traveled beyond the borders of Kutura. People from neighboring villages came quietly, not in crowds but in small numbers. Women with heavy eyes, men with trembling hands, grandmothers carrying old photos of children long gone. They didn't speak much. They came to sit, to listen, to grieve. A stone bench was built near the well, not by the government, but by a young widow who had buried 3 children in 2 years. She carved one sentence into the backrest. Every time someone came, they brought something: small offerings of remembrance, a child's sandal, a faded ribbon, a folded letter. None of it was taken away. The villagers left it all there, believing the well accepted grief in many forms. Then came the drought. 3 years without rain, rivers turned to dust, crops failed, livestock collapsed in the fields. People looked to the skies until their necks ached. But no clouds came. One morning, the village borehole broke. The metal pipe snapped deep underground, and no engineer would come without a massive fee. The chief called an emergency meeting. "We must reopen the old well," he said. "We cannot die of thirst while water lies below our feet." Murmurs rose. Faces turned to one another in fear. Someone whispered, "But what of Halima? What of her daughter?" The chief sighed. "We honor the past, but we must live in the present. Let us ask the spirits first. If they do not answer, we will draw water with respect." That night, they held a vigil beside the well. Candles were lit, prayers were murmured, women sang old songs of longing and rain. The air was thick with incense and memory. Just before dawn, a child, barefoot, no older than 6, walked through the gathering. No one recognized her. Her dress was white and her eyes were wide like the sky after lightning. She walked straight to the well, bent down, and whispered something. Then she turned and left, her small feet silent on the sand. By the time anyone thought to follow her, she had vanished. The chief, shaken, declared, "It is a sign. The well has been heard. Let us draw water carefully, with reverence." And so they did. They fetched water only in silence. No shouting, no buckets thrown carelessly. The children were taught not to play near it. Pregnant women were asked to whisper blessings before they drank. The well gave water freely, clean, cool, clear, and yet each year, on the day Halima disappeared, no one fetched water. Instead, the whole village fasted till sundown. They gathered around the well not to ask but to thank. They sang Halima's song, the one her daughter used to hum while playing in the courtyard. "River deep, river wide, carry my voice to the other side." It became a new tradition, not enforced, not commanded, but followed by choice. The well no longer wept, but people said they still felt something, when the wind was soft, when the stars were out, when their own hearts ached quietly. One year, a woman from the city came. Her name was Madame Ogoma, and she was known for building boreholes in rural places. When she heard of the weeping whale, she was curious. She arrived in a shiny car, heels clicking on Kotora's earth. She carried a clipboard and spoke fast. "We can close this well and build you a modern one," she said. "This is old. Unsafe. Sentimental." The chief smiled politely. "Madam, you are welcome here. But this well is not just stone and water." She scoffed. "Superstition. What you need is progress." That night she stayed in the guest house near the square. At midnight she woke screaming. She claimed to see a girl by the well, crying, pointing at her. "I don't believe in ghosts," she shouted, trembling, sweat pouring down her face. "But I swear she touched me." By morning she was gone. Her car raised dust on the road like a departing storm cloud. No one tried to close the well again. 20 years after Halima vanished, an elder called Abeni, who had once been her neighbor, asked to be buried near the well. "I want to be close," she said. "So when I pass over, I can tell her, 'We remember.'" Her grave was dug gently, facing east, the direction of the rising sun. People came in silence, dropped palm fronds and white stones near the head of her grave. The same girl, no longer a stranger now but a spirit everyone honored, was seen standing beside the grave for a brief moment. Then she was gone again. The well did not cry. It did not need to. Goodbye.